In this video, I am going to be talking about class template C++ topics, static member for class template, initializing static member, and specializing static member. I am going to be using this editor for explanation. These topics, class templates, template instantiation, class instantiation, are already discussed in one of the previous videos, which is going to be in the description, and the link is going to be in the description. If you have not watched that, please make sure you watch that video. And non-type parameters, default values for parameters, and multiple type parameters have been discussed in another video. Both videos are going to be in the description link, so make sure you watch those videos. The topics I'm going to discuss here is going to be based on the previous discussion. These are advanced topics. Static member for class template, initializing static member, and specializing static member. So let me explain this template. First, let me simplify this template so that we'll not have some difficult or complicated time explaining the things. So I'm going to remove the things that are not necessary for this discussion, this explanation. Compilation and running, it is working well without any issue. It displays the data. Now, static member for class template. Sometimes, if I want to keep track of all the objects created out of this class, then using a static member is one option. Or if I want to keep track of the smallest possible number that has been used in the instantiation of this class. For example, in this instantiation, the smallest number is the number in this array. Smallest number in array, I think it is going to be 140. And another object could be created with for the same int and 100 data, but with different array with different values. In that case, if the smallest value happens to be smaller than 140, then that is going to be recorded. So throughout all the instantiation, all the objects created out of that class, I want to keep a track of smallest value that was used, right? For that, I can have a member which belongs to the class, not to the object. So static member is a member which to class, not to objects, right? Sometimes these members are also called as class members, for the reason that they actually belong to class. The way you declare static member is as follows. If I want to, let me give the name first. Min this is the name I'm giving to the static member, minimum element across all the objects. The type of this member is going to be type of the array, because it is one of the elements of these arrays, right? So it is going to be, type is going to be T. Now static is the keyword, we put on the front. So this is declaration. And static member, another thing is definition or initialization of static member, right? You must initialize this member outside the class, not inside class but outside the class. So maybe you can choose this space to initialize. The syntax for initialization is to have the template header first, followed by this member. We don't need this static keyword here, but we need to specify the scope. The scope of this member is the class. So name of the class is array, and you need to also specify the types, and the types for which this class is to be instantiated for is going to be t and n. So t, n, and you have to have this 2 columns. Now you set data some value to this. What is the value you want to set, right? If the way I would like to have this element store the minimum value is going to be whenever any data is brought in this array. In this case it can be only brought in through this constructor, and there could be also changes made through this operator, but I'm going to ignore that for the moment for the simplicity of explanation. Whenever these items are being copied, we can check each item and whether we are able to store that minimum item in this member. So if you want to do that, the one approach is to initialize this item to very large value. Let's say if this is going to be t is going to be integer, then I would choose 999999999. My assumption is that this value is not going to be used for the initialization, and sometimes it could be the different type. For example, double could be used for t, could be some other types. So I want to actually cast this value to t types to be safe in the situation where it is not necessarily integer. So if you initialize this to large value, then you can have a simple selection construct. If I is smaller than this min, then you set this element to right. So the purpose of this logic is to make sure that to check whether this each of the element is qualifies to be minimum element across. If that qualifies, and then you just set it to minimum, right? Now every time you create an array, all the elements will be checked for this minimum across, and if that particular element is smaller than the data this member is currently holding, that element data is going to be copied to this member. So this will actually keep a record of the smallest number that is used across all the objects. Now to access this number, because this is private, so you need to have a static function, member function. So you can create a static member function by using keyword static, and you want to return t type data because the type of the data carried by this member is t, and it's going to be return something like this. You can choose your own name. This is not going to be query, right? If you use constant, that's going to be error because you cannot make it constant. Now return minimum element min element across. So this is the definition of the static member that you're going to use to access this member. Now I can use this to see what is the minimum member. Let me, with this array, let me just put this array in a bit different way in the same line, and after that line I'm going to be displaying that minimum across. By the way, you can call this function through, because this belongs to the class, so either through the object, or you can also use the class. If you want to use class, then you need to do it like this, and array, and then you need to specify the types, double column, right? Either you use this class name, or you can use the object, this IER object, to call that function. Let us see what is the minimum value it has recorded. So minimum element across recorded is 133. This array, another array with these elements. So heights, but with different values here. Okay, and I created another object by using the second array, and I did the same thing I did before, and this, it will display the minimum at this point. This will return the minimum value recorded up to this point, and this function will return the minimum value recorded up to this point. Compile and see the output. In the previous case, you can see it was 133. Now it is 50, because it got new data, and in the new data the minimum value happened to be 50. So this 50 was recorded in this number. I discussed static member for class template, initializing static member, and specializing static member. Now specializing. For example, if I have a situation where instead of using a data which is easily convertible by, or casted by this operation, what if I have an array with a data which cannot be casted in this way. For example, I suppose I have an array of a string, title, let me give 4. If I have this array and I want to create this array object for this array to manage the data of this array, right? So I can do that as follows. Let me have a capacity of 20 and a string array, title, and total of 4 elements, right? So I created, and when this instruction statement is being executed, at that time what happens is this static member is going to be initialized. That means this line is executed at that point. And what happens is t is taking a string, and we're trying to cast this integer to a string. So what happens? Let's try to cast this to a string. Let me comment this out for a moment and try to have something. I want to cast 1 2 3 to a string. So obviously this is not allowed, right? There's no way, there's no any way that is defined to cast integer into a string. Therefore that is going to be the thing that you want to be careful about. Now if there is no defined logic, if defined logic, because this is a logic, if you are casting one data into another data and you are assigning that is a logic, even if it is a small logic, but that is a logic involved. It involves execution of set of instructions statements. If the logic does not work with a particular type, then you need to define a different logic for that particular type, and that process is called specialization. This is a defining a different for a specific type, right? So we need to define this logic for a string, in the case where t is a string. So the way we can do is I think the first line in the specialization is going to be again template keyword and 2 angle brackets, and this thing within the bracket is empty in the specialization always. And if you want to specialize for a string, then you need to replace this t by a string in this initialization, and you need to have an array name, and also again use the type to be sliced to, and you need to give the name and the value for this non-type parameter. So the value we are going to use here is going to be 20, so let's give it 20. Now you can have the name across equals to, in this case, the large value. For example, it's going to be storing the minimum value, and the way it works is minimum value in terms of the underlying ASCII or underlying numerical representation of this characters. In this case, r. This string is going to be smaller than this string, and this string is going to be smaller than this string, and this string is going to be smaller than this string, right? D comes before E comes before M, and after M R comes before S. So if you want to be safe, then you want to initialize with the maximum possible value in this case, which is you can use uppercase Z. I would use uppercase G and lowercase g, right? Dot. So this could be the maximum possible value that you can initialize to. Therefore, so we want to initialize to this one. So this way you specialize this initialization or definition of the class member or static member for specific type, string type, and value 20. With this this instantiation should be not a problem. First let me show you that this is actually a problem. Without this specialization, I'm gonna run this code and see what problem it gives me. You can see in the error window it says this cannot convert from integer to t type. In this case t is a string, so in this particular case it's not able to convert because it tried to convert this integer to string type, which was not possible. But with specialization, now it's okay, it's running. I can show you the output, right? So we have not displayed anything, therefore you can't see anything, but let us have a similar loop and cout statement for displaying this data, the data for this string array. Is going to be string and 20. This is the output. Now you can see minimum element is actually recorded, dr is recorded as minimum element. So this is the way you can specialize the static member, right? Just remember this. Now in this video I completed explaining static members for class template, initializing static member, and specialization of static member.